Welcome to the Everything Yachting YouTube channel. Our goal is to help yacht buyers, yacht owners, and yacht sellers through interesting, educational, and informative discussions on topics that are anything and everything yachting related. Thank you for joining me today, Captain Eric Gervais with Everything Yachting, and one of my long-term business associates. I'm going to even go so far as to call him a friend, a great guy, Marc Curreri. Marc, have you ever run a boat before?
I have, actually.
You have?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me on the channel.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I watch it. I'm an avid watcher. Yep. So thank you very much. Yeah. I ran boats for about 20 years. I was a licensed master near coastal captain.
Okay.
I was running boats all over the place. I was involved in a business that we did yacht management and maintenance. So we traveled all over the eastern seaboard, up and down the East Coast, up and down the Mississippi, all over the Bahamas, Caribbean. So I've been all over.
So I always ask this question: how far north, how far south, how far east, how far west? Where has yachting taken you?
So as far east as Cannes, doing a transatlantic on a 139 Fed ship. That was an interesting, fun trip.
Yeah.
Through the Azores, Bermuda, and then back to Fort Lauderdale.
That's impressive.
Yeah, that was a tough trip. I gotta tell you, the seas were not cooperating on that one, but nonetheless, it was a good experience early on in my career. So that was fun. But up and down the eastern seaboard quite a bit. I did do one of my most fun memorable trips was from Fort Lauderdale all the way to Chicago.
Okay.
So that was a lot of fun. You got to plan like your A stop, B stop, and C stop because you're going through a lot of different locks.
Yeah.
And you can't, lock with a red flag, barge. So, sometimes you want to get somewhere and you just can't get there. So you're stopping at all these random places, and it was a lot of fun, a lot of planning and a lot of fun. And
then at some point in time, you left this seat from behind the helm and you landed where you are today. What is that? What are you doing, and maybe why?
So, I love technology. I've done a couple of different startups. I'm involved in the marine industry. I've been doing this for almost 30 years. I didn't have any gray hair at that point,
I don't think I did either when I started.
Okay. But, I just love technology. So I saw an opportunity to bring Dockmate's wireless remote control technology to the United States back in 2018. Mm-hmm. So it had been around worldwide for several years before that, but there wasn't any representation in the United States. So I said, look, man, this is an opportunity. We've got to do this. So, it was great.
So I will say, in all fairness, I would say I am an expert in your competition. Okay. First off, I have to rewind. I don't know how we lived boating before this wireless technology because it's been a game changer for me personally.
Right.
The mobility side of it is what's most important to me. Meaning, if I am stuck right here, my vision, my sight lines and everything is the best that I can achieve from right here. And then I critique the vessel and I critique the manufacturer. And why did you put that there? I can't see out.
Right.
So the mobility is I can now grab this and I can go where I need to go. So that's the value to me personally. Okay. Then we start talking about how do I interface with it? What features does it have? So when I first started using these, I remember I put a video up on YouTube. I took a 66 Marlowe out of Ferro Blanco from our rendezvous, and it got tons of hits because I tagged the manufacturer in it, and it was so new at the time, people didn't trust it. And I remember I picked the remote up, and I had somebody asking me, "You really going to use that? I heard in Italy one guy was using it, and the boat went off and crashed and whatever." And that's never happened to me. Nothing close to that has ever happened to me, ever, okay? The issues that I've had have been range related as one. 2, somebody lost a remote. We had to buy a new one. 3, I pushed a button too hard or someone before me pushed a button too hard and it popped in. So let's talk about those things. Range. Most of the time, I'm not having a problem with range. And I'm talking like out of 100 trips, because I am not running I currently don't own a big boat, so I don't have my remote in my boat as plan A that I repeat every single time, right? I am jumping on your boat or your boat or your boat or your boat or whoever's boat. I'm delivering it, and it's all new every single time. This is huge for me.
Right.
So on a 80-footer, if maybe there was only one antenna or whatever or placed or blocked, sometimes at the far extremity of the boat, I put my body between the antenna accidentally and I get a little chirping and I get no reaction. So all I got to do is twist and it's okay.
Sure.
So is that common with yours? Do you have a solution to that? Has that been fixed already in the industry would be the first question.
Right. So no, it's not common with us, but I do want to go back to one thing just for your viewers and stuff, because I think it's an important topic. It's, people have a fear of leaving the helm just altogether.
I don't anymore.
Well, you don't anymore.
I've been doing it for like 15 years or 10 years. Or
right. But there are some people, this is a new technology, right? So we talk about like changing your viewpoint. And I remember as a young captain, using a wireless remote control, the owner, I know how to run a boat and I used to do a lot of it myself. So we ran with an owner, maybe an owner and a wife or something like that. So it was just me doing stuff. Yeah. So when we got to the dock, it was always, or getting close to the marina, it was always an issue of like setting the lines and the fenders and all this stuff. And I was that guy that never wanted to leave the helm. I'd be adjusting it and I'd run downstairs, do my lines, do my fenders, run back up. And the owner had a wireless remote on his boat. You know what I mean? And he's like, use the remote. I'm like, no.
That's me now.
No.
I'm telling him.
Yeah.
Use the remote.
Right. Exactly. So it switched. So eventually he turned the thing on and just like put it in my hand. And, sometimes you just have to get that kick. You know what I mean?
I've kicked a few captains out there whose owners have upgraded, bought a Marlow or upgraded and bought a wireless remote. Yeah. And I've exactly done that. And once you teach them how to fly, they never turn back.
Well, that's right. And so I realized I went through that just in my head. I was like, okay, this just slowed down my entire process. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, so I was setting the lines. I was able to make an adjustment. I was, doing the fenders and, then I was able to back in and do all that stuff and still have full control of the boat. So I saw the value of wireless remote control technology and I was like, oh my gosh, you know what I mean?
It makes it easier, right? Way easier.
And this is what we preach. To make a better boating experience, that's really what it's all about is doing that. So, so that was just my little story that it's just, sometimes you have to be kicked. There's a lot of captains that they come by our booth or they call and they're like, I know how to drive a boat. I'm good. It's like, well, if you know this doesn't teach you how to drive a boat.
Right.
You have to know how to drive a boat. Right. And if you know how to drive a boat, you're able to do it better.
Yeah.
And slower and safer, really, most importantly. You know what I mean?
100%. I'm personally not a joystick fan. Because I know how to drive a boat.
Right.
So the joystick doesn't add any value to me personally. Some clients, they absolutely love it. Okay. Let's get back to that range question though. Because I'm not the guy that's going to walk a mile down the dock and just say, oh, look at me, I can still drive my boat. I'm a guy that wants an immediate path back to the helm in case something goes wrong, which has never happened to me. Yeah. But if I'm on the bow or I've gone under a bridge on the hardtop of a boat because I was really that close, boat A, B, C for the week, what one am I on, what's the air draft, and I've run it through on a wireless yacht controller or Dockmate or whatever, right? So let's talk about range.
So we say our range is about 165 feet. It could be more, it could be less. So we use technology that is called frequency hopping spread spectrum technology. Now that's a big word and people start to glaze over when you say that. But we didn't invent it. It's been out, for years. Over 50 years. This is what the military uses to fly their drones. This is the technology that's out there. So we're using 6 different channels and the code is changing 6 times a second. Okay. So you don't really have that issue. All right.
Interference issue or risk of some other random combo stealing my control.
You don't, because it's changing 6 times a second. There's never 2 Dockmates anywhere like in the world with those same 6 channels because it just changed like 6 times a second.
Right.
Okay. So,
that's even better than what I remember it being. I thought it was like 2 channels changing or 2 channels or whatever. And maybe that wasn't your tech. Maybe that was someone else's tech. Yeah. I don't sell these things. I use these things. And I've used at least 3 or 4 different brands over the years. Some of them are still here. Some of them have gone out of business. Right. So the distance thing, it seems like you solved, and the reliability of interference has gotten better.
Well,
potential interference.
Yes, it notifies you if there's a loss of signal. There's a light on there. There's a link light that goes red. The remote alarms and it vibrates. So you see it, you feel it, you hear it. All right. But even before that. The installer, all the Dockmate products are installed by a certified trained dealer that goes through our 2-day training course and has to be trained every single year, right? Okay. So, anybody could probably install a Dockmate, but it's the software side of things that really separates Dockmate from everybody else. So in our software, we can see our signal strength between our remote and our receiver, right? It shows right here, and it's constantly going. So what the dealer does is, when he's done with his installation, he puts it all away. He walks around the boat, and we can see if the signal strength is dropping low or whatever the case may be.
Okay, so you have communication and visual understanding of
see exactly what's going on, right?
Okay.
So then we do the dealer will do the orientation with the customer, and there's a whole checklist and stuff. But they check it to make sure that they have control all around the boat. And then what we train the dealers to do is have the owner grab the remote and just walk down the dock and see how far they can get. And they go and they're still using it. And they're like, it's still working. It's still working. Still working. And they get to the end of the dock and they're like, still working, they keep going.
That's going to boost their confidence huge.
Well, and that's it, right, Eric? Yeah. So the idea is, a lot of people are still skeptical, like you started about saying about, wireless remote control technology. Yeah. And that's like,
I'm not skeptical. I mean,
well, not anymore, right? Because things evolve, right? I mean, now like everything's electronic control, so, but, and I'm not either, but some people are. Right. So you got to put that peace of mind out there for these owners just to let them know, look, you're now 30 feet in front of where the receiver is and 30 feet after where the receiver is, and you just walked 165 feet away. So you're now operating in a very small part of the coverage area of this product.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
That makes them, they just go, okay. You know what I mean? So if they call, say, oh, well, the alarm, but it's usually like, well, what happened? They must have broken off the antenna or something, which has happened, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Or the antenna's moved or something, and they go and they flip it, or they say, replace the antenna and everything's great. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it really gives them that peace of mind before the dealer walks off the boat that there's not going to be any issue,
Okay, check. Done with that one. How about if you guys have taken orientation from me, you've heard me say the 4 fingers of death, where I want to make this boat walk sideways. On a lot of the units, I have to, let's just say, push reverse, push forward, push port, maybe switch fingers here and push over here as well. Yeah. And I can do that. And some of my new clients, it takes them, by day 3 of orientation to be able to do the 4 fingers of death move, which is maximum sideways walk with a wireless remote. I also have had some owners reprogram, the windlass control as an example, to add the horn. So, I haven't done a full orientation with your new product yet. So how do you solve those problems? Do you have, any solutions to any of those things? Do you break your buttons? Because when one of the remotes I pushed so hard, unfortunately, that I broke the button.
Right.
And I had to get, a new remote purchase. Yeah. So I've also had a client lose a remote. So how do you handle all that stuff?
So, well, first of all of our remotes have the horn included at no additional charge.
That's cool.
They may need a horn.
I don't use that feature often or ever, but it's nice to have.
It's a cool feature. Just, if you're coming out, you've pulled out of the dock and you're coming out of the marina, you're supposed to do your horn signals, right? Yeah. So, all the remotes have the horn. The twin and the single have a designated horn button. And on the twist and the vector, you push down, you hear a little detent, and that's the horn feature on that. So all of them have it.
Do you honk the horn every time you leave? I feel bad
I just have a little pontoon boat now, so I'm done driving big boats.
Because I'm always catching sunrises.
Yeah, right. No one's around. You don't want to wake anybody up. I hear you. Yeah. No, I mean, but that's what you're supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
So
at 5 in the morning, I don't know.
You don't usually do it. You know what I mean? So as far as like the button pushing kind of things, I mean, we went to a flat. The button's there, right?
Yeah, glad it's there.
So, but as far as like, buttons and falling out or whatever the case may be, I mean, especially on the twin, we went with the pads. Okay. The engines have the engine buttons have a different texture than the thruster buttons. So you can see it or feel it in like, low lighting,
visibility. I have to tell you, when I'm doing 4 fingers of death, the one that I'm an expert on might be a little easier than this to do.
Well, I'm going to explain that for you right now.
Just because I've got something that I can, I have something to lean against, but I guess I lean against it so hard sometimes I break it.
Yeah. So, this is where your twist would have some value to you, right? Because, on the twist, you just move the joystick over.
Right.
Okay. And if you have
That's
a balance.
Too easy. I need 4
I know. It's just going to move it over. And this is fully proportional. So if they wanted the proportional throttle control, the more you move this, the more throttle they're going to get. If you have proportional thrusters, we can increase the proportional part of the thrusters. So there's a lot more customization capabilities with this guy. But if
I'm a captain. I don't need a joystick.
Yeah, right. I hear you. So I'm more of this guy too, just so you know. But so in this particular case, like all of our remotes at no additional charge offer what we call Throttle Plus. Okay. So this remote will be idle speed plus an on-demand predetermined engine RPM increase. All right. Okay. Again, it's part of our software.
So if it's 700 idle and I mash a button, it can go to 850?
850. It's whatever the owner sets.
Okay.
So and that happens like in real time on the sea trial. The dealer will have their laptop up right here and they'll push the button and be like, well, that's really not enough. He'll make a little adjustment. Okay, how's that? That's great. So when he needs that extra throttle, it's there.
So day 3 of orientation, I'm doing this, or day 1 of orientation?
Day 1, like before the customer even uses the product. Like that's, you get off the dock and that's what you want to do.
All right, so that's very handy to me because one of my complaints is when I need to use a boost of power, I have to come back in and my mobility goes away.
Yeah.
So now I can pre-program. I'm just talking out loud of how I'm thinking, guys.
Yeah.
I would probably go light in the beginning until I got used to it. What would happen if I called you up on day 5 and said, I really want a little bit more oomph in that. I'm comfortable with it now, and I want to go to 950.
So, a lot of the dealers will give you like one free adjustment. I'm not saying, but it is up to the dealer network to do that. Okay. Right. So you use the boat because that's a common thing. You know what I mean? Like
I wouldn't think I'd ping pong a lot. I think I kind of go and landed there.
They dial it in. Usually they're going from, here up to Massachusetts or vice versa, or they're doing a trip and they go, I think I set it a little too high. I want to actually lower it or even vice versa. But usually they went a little too high and they want to go back down. So the dealer, most likely will come on the boat. It is, the dealer does have to come. It's not something you can do remotely. And there's a reason for that. We want the dealer to be on board. Anytime you're making a change to the throttle percentage of your controls, like there needs to be somebody on the boat because you are
same dealer or different dealer, doesn't matter.
Could be different dealer. We have dealers all over the country, right? So they are
how many ballpark?
We have over 100 dealers. You can go on our website and they're all over. There are different types of dealers. So our certified partners or our elite partners are the ones that only have access to our software in order to do that.
100 sounds plenty to me.
Yeah, I mean they're all over. I mean
can't
anywhere
think
you
of
go.
100 cat dealers when we're talking about engines, So
exactly. So they're good.
Maybe there is, but I only know the ones I generally touch on the Eastern Seaboard.
That's it. You find a couple good ones, and that's all you need.
Yeah, that's all you need. I can make it to them and them and them.
Yeah. So, there's a reason why, Caterpillar, Volvo, they don't do over-the-air, updates and stuff. There needs to be a technician on the boat in order to do that. Okay. Because we are underway. The boat is underway. So you're making a change.
Sounds safe and prudent to me.
Well, right? Because you're making a change. You know what I mean? We can log in remotely from our office to the dealer's computer, but we're logging in to the dealer's computer through our proprietary software. And we can help and see what's going on if we need to, right? But the dealer knows how to make that little adjustment and stuff. And then we're checking it. Are you good with it, sir? You know what I mean? You're there. You're right there. You know what I mean? You do a little bit more, a little bit less. You can do it. It all happens in real time. So it's really important. I mean, other people can do over the air stuff. That for us, it's imperative. You know what I mean? With being on board and making sure that everything is right. Okay. And we have that dealer network to support that. Now, so getting back to your 4 fingers of death.
It requires a little bit of practice.
Yes, you got to be very
honestly,
dexterous.
I use my palm in my chest and then jam it,
So, these boats have a bow
I
and
have
a stern.
Equity in that maneuver. I practiced
you
for
should,
years.
You should, yes, and you got really good at it too, probably,
I did. I'm really good at it.
If a bow and a stern thruster, obviously you can push this and push this, right?
Yep.
A lot of your boats have a bow and a stern thruster. I would say, it's not main course. I mean, a lot of boats just have a bow thruster.
If you build a Marlowe with me, I'm going to tell you to get both because and I'm going to tell you get the biggest because when you need it, it's priceless. Yeah. Okay. If you spend that little bit of extra for the security to have it, it's better than the alternative. Trust me.
So, this is obviously your bow thruster. This, if you don't have a stern thruster, this is what we call our stern thruster simulator. So it's going to put one engine forward and one engine in reverse. All right. Now, to give you that more power, right, that throttle plus that we were talking about, that's how we started. So there's 2 ways you can do it. Okay. You can either push this as idle speed and push the select command button, and that's going to bring that engine RPM up.
Okay.
Okay. So idle speed, increase in engine RPM, idle speed, increase in engine RPM.
Okay.
Or you can push and hold the button for a certain amount of time. I personally like 2 seconds. Okay.
So that's programmable?
Programmable. It's all in our software. So now I imagine
So
yourself.
I'm usually, just to talk about how I interface with this, I'm going as slow as I want to hit something, okay? So I generally am touching buttons and maneuvering by either pulling off as a way to rotate if I'm trying to decrease my speed, or pushing on as a way to rotate if I want to keep forward momentum, right? So a lot of times I'm, just touching a little bit and going. So I imagine me pushing these buttons often to decide what to do. Okay?
And that's it. So that's going to be idle speed, right? Because that's what you do. You're bumping off the dock, bump, bump, bump. Now you've got into your fairway and you need a little more, right? So you can push it.
Yeah, some current came I didn't expect, and now I need to maintain forward movement.
So, okay, or you need to twist first, right? So you're twisting 1, 2, the engine, your RPM proportionally ramps up to whatever you guys have set. Now you've got the boat to twist. Now you can go down the dock, 1, 2, it increases engine RPM. You can hold it. I need to go a little bit more this way. Push this one. I need to go a little bit more that way.
I just want to make a point, guys. Because of the variability in engine RPM, that's going to allow me to use my bow or stern thruster less, because I can do more with my engine. All right.
Right.
Okay. Sorry. I just want to point that out, because if you don't know, you don't know.
Because you're gonna want to save your thrusters. I mean, you're getting off the dock. Hopefully, you don't need them. But vice versa, coming in. You don't want to be using your thrusters a lot, God forbid.
Yeah, you save them, right? Electric thrusters, usually you can hold on to them for a minute to a minute and a half before they get hot and turn off and aren't happy.
Yeah.
It's that I still need them after that becomes a problem. So what we do is boat show moving, as an example, is we try to lay on them for 3 to 15 seconds, let them cool down as we're doing that. The alternative to thrusters is the engines, and those don't time out or heat up or run out of juice. So the more options you can give me with maneuverability of engine control while I am remote increases that remote's capability, because the alternative is I have to come back to here and use the wheel and use the throttle. Right. Okay.
So there's that, and that Throttle Plus is included with both the single, twin, and then the twist, right? So you get that. So in this one, basically you get to it, this would all be idle speed, and if you go to the end, you can bump it up and throttle. So you're going to go, I need more. There you go. I need more. Here you go. You know what I mean? You can do one engine here, one engine here. This is both engines. So you have flexibility to do one engine at a time, and you don't need to come back to center. So if you're working your way outside the marina, both engines, roll your thumb over. That's just your starboard engine in gear, port engine in gear, that type of stuff. So you can do that, and the engine RPM will increase. And we can set different RPMs.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that you could angle.
This is why we're here to
I'm learning a lot today.
Right, I didn't see that.
So maybe that's just warp speed technology coming at me, and I wasn't ready for it yet.
Right. So the other thing that I like to do, it's just my personal thing, because running boats, is that a lot of times, like if you put both engines in forward, you don't need a lot of extra RPM.
Right. Yeah. We got 1,000 horsepower, 900 horsepower, and big wheels. Right. One little 3-second burst gets this sucker moving.
Right. So idle speed with both engines forward, usually maybe 50, 100 RPM, just a little bit more. Okay. Then when you go to a 45, which is one engine, I like to increase the engine RPM. So now if you're on the bow and you're going forward, now you roll over to one side, you can feel that engine RPM go, and it actually has an effect on the boat. So I usually like to go up at least a couple hundred RPM more. When you're doing one engine.
I'm going to tell, can I talk about this for a second?
Sure.
All right. So if you've ever done orientation, the first thing you do is you do this. Okay.
Yeah.
And then once I have this, I turn into Superman, because I have full mobility and I can do everything by myself. So Superman captain pulls it into the fairway, stops, turns this on, uses this to dock, goes down, and then I am fully in my slip and stock, and I'm 100% confident. I go like this, and I go, I got all the lines. Watch this, guys. And I go down, and I just forget that this thing has this appendage on it, and I have hit this before. So maybe that warp speed technology slapped me upside the face, and that's why I got scared of this. So is there something that I could have done to stop that? I see a stop button on here now. Yeah. Maybe I should have pushed that instead of just dropped it and tied up lines. No damage happened. I was made aware of something that I wasn't thinking that was going to happen, right? So I liked the flush buttons, because that's never happened to me on the flush or the stick up buttons. So what's the future of that.
So, well, I mean, this obviously is not going to get caught
Right,
up
I've never,
on,
on any of the other brands,
not.
I haven't done that, but the joystick I have.
The joystick, I mean, so you do have to be conscious of where that knob is. You know what I mean? That's
Common sense 101. My fault, totally.
Right? So there's a couple different options. I mean, the stop button there is, God forbid, something were to be engaged. You can hit that stop. It doesn't shut the engines down. It shuts communication down between the dockmate and the receiver.
Right.
Okay? So the other option that people do to solve that problem is they just shut the remote off. Okay? So one of the things we promote is like,
how quick does it come back on?
Well, there you go. That's our ease of use is like one of the big things, especially for your
I don't
model.
have to come back up and hit a button?
You don't have to do anything. So in order to turn...
So I have to call a timeout because in any given month, I might be running 6 different boats, and half of the phone calls I get as a training captain after delivery is, how do I operate my wireless controller? And I have to tell them to send me a picture of what they have because I can't remember. Because I can't remember if it's the version where I can just hit the breaker, do station select, turn this on, it works. Or is it the version that has a black button hidden somewhere? Or is it a version that has a silver button and a black button and I have to hit the silver button first and the black button twice? Or whatever it is. I can't remember because I wasn't on your boat yesterday and I've been on 5 other boats since then. So it requires a text and a picture before I can assist.
Right.
How are these? Do these have all those different versions as well? You know.
So you do have to have your engines on and running, right? But all you got to do is just anywhere on the boat, just turn on the dockmate. 3 seconds.
You don't have a separate power button? Do you have a breaker anywhere?
No. Because our interfaces are as close to OEM as you can get. And specifically on this boat here with Volvo, we use this Volvo gateway system.
Okay.
Okay. So you just turn on the
So it's another station?
It's another station on there. Yeah.
It doesn't take from a station?
It will take from a station if there's another station active. It's like just if you come here and you had another station on this boat, this has one station, maybe one in back, I'm not sure. But so if you just had another station, say you had a lower helm and you were active there, you come up here and you hit station, you're going to take away control from the lower station and bring it here, right? So Dockmate does the same thing. So, the Dockmate is connected to this station. All you have to do is just turn on the remote and you can claim it.
So I've had boats where you always had to turn it all on. You always had to activate the flybridge for that system to work because it wouldn't take off of the lower helm pilot house. Is that the same with yours or different?
It's the same. No. So it's different. So we're.
Okay, that was a trick question. What he's telling us is it's easier. Okay.
Easier.
That's good news because not for you because you likely won't be running 5 different boats in a week, right?
Yeah.
You're going to have yours and you're going to know it. But for whoever may be jumping on your boat or buying your boat next, or just the ease of understanding how to do it, there is no multi-step process. You just power it up and it works.
Power up and it works. That's it. So that would be the solution to your knob hitting stuff is you can shut it down, right? Because you don't have to come back up to the helm to re-engage anything.
That's awesome.
Right? So you can shut it down and then you can turn it back on and it's right there. It connects immediately and then they can go back and do that control if they were worried about, that.
Okay.
But ease of use, that's going back and forth between the Dockmate and the controls on the boat. Every electronic control manufacturer specifies how we connect. So some are different. Volvo is different than Glendenning that you have, and Twin Disc and different controls. So everybody specifies the way we should connect, or whether it's, a Ventix or whatever the case may be. So, so it may be a little bit variation of that, but it's there's specific hardware and, things that they ask us to do to make it connect. So it's, your warranty's intact and all these things are, that put the customer at ease. And that's why the communication between the Dockmate and the controls are just as seamless.
Not that I've ever had any of these wireless remotes just fail other than me mashing a button too hard. I've had a client lose one. What's the warranty on them? What happens if I break it? What happens if I lose it? Does it drop in the water? Does it float? What's the deal?
So it's waterproof and it floats.
It does float?
It does float.
That's a good.
So we offer a 3
my handheld radios. I buy them. They're more expensive and they float because stuff happens.
That's right. Yeah, if it drops in the water, you should call your dealer to make sure that no water did get in there.
Okay.
If water did get in there, we'll replace it at no charge. We offer a 3-year warranty on parts and 1 year onboard labor.
Okay.
Right. So if it's the first year, we pay the dealer to come to the boat if there's an issue, just like a Garmin or a Volvo or a Caterpillar or a Wolfman or whatever the case may be. So we have that type of warranty program for your customers, and anywhere. You know what I mean? It's a so it's a Dockmate warranty.
I like it.
I mean, it's not a dealer
notepad
warranty
down here.
So it's not an issue at all.
How long does it take to install if I built a boat without one and I wanted to add one?
So we tell everybody to budget a day. Okay. It doesn't take a day. It could take, the world record here for Dockmate install is about an hour and a half with a sea trowel. So, but there's a process that we go through. So the dealer, is supposed to come on board, and we need the owner or owner agent on board. It's required. They start everything up that they're going to touch. They make sure it goes in and out of gear. They work the thrusters both directions and all different, at helms, the anchor, make sure that's working, the horn, all that stuff. Then you shut it down, and then the dealer will go and connect. Okay. Then once it's all connected, usually that takes about a couple hours. I mean, everything is a plug. Literally, it's just a plug. Okay. Wow. So with this Volvo, it's a gateway that Volvo requires us to connect. It's a plug that goes directly into the Volvo multi-link hub, and the other side is like a NEMA 2000, like all this stuff, and it goes right into our box.
Are there any throttle controls or engine manufacturers that you can't work with?
We work with everybody. Yeah. I mean, we have NDAs with some other electronic control manufacturers to develop different interfaces and newer controls that are coming out.
Okay.
So, because this isn't all you're going to see for electronic controls with different manufacturers. So they're coming to us now, which is actually really great, to work together. You know what I mean? So, now you're above Hinckley Yachts, right? They came out with a new jet stick, whole thing. It's they designed their whole jet stick program. Right. Well, when they were doing that, they worked with us from the ground up so that our remote, the Dockmate remote, is the remote for the Hinckley Jet Stick 4.
That's pretty cool.
So there's a lot of that technology behind the scenes happening right now. And it's a lot of cool stuff. So
yeah, you guys are definitely growing. You're taking market share. I'm seeing more of your product out there.
Yeah.
I've known you for a long time. I think you're a great guy.
Yeah.
And I am learning that there's some features and benefits here that are impressing me. So we're on a 53 Marlowe today, and tomorrow I get to go cruise this back to Tampa with the new owners. So I'm going to get to play with this.
Yeah.
We're going to become intimately familiar with your product. We're going to probably adjust it to the client's, specification maybe before the next boat show. And I'd like to do another video with you to come back and tell you what I think after having put 500 miles on it.
Sure. Yeah, we can
actually
probably
do that. Like 1,000 miles because we're going to come back.
Right. Well, we need to get you, we'll get you that orientation and stuff because, in addition from that throttle side of things, we also set up what we call our soft docking. So your boats have bigger wheels, right? So when you kick it in and out of gear, sometimes you got to know exactly a little bit just to get that bump and that kind of rotation on the propeller. Well, again, we built something into our software because it's very hard to time that on a wireless remote control, right? You're pushing it, nothing happened. Push it too much, and engage too much. Does that happen to you?
What he's saying is there's a delay from throttle input to throttle response or propeller response. Typically, the boat, you'll learn it in a matter of minutes. Hey, this is a 2-second boat or a 3-second boat or a remote or whatever. You're telling me that's adjustable?
It's adjustable in our software. We call it soft docking.
Okay. That's pretty cool.
Our proprietary, program. So what we do is, during the sea trial, the dealer will come on and he'll push this button and maybe nothing will happen. So he goes into our software and he puts a little more delay in there, and then he pushes the button and it'll just engage the transmission and come out. So when you push this, you're going to get the exact same result every single time.
That's pretty cool.
That's a little bump. And if you're in this one here, so this could be weird because you could go all the way, right? You're scared, like you're just trying to bump it and find that.
Is there a docking mode that limits the RPM on that?
The software knows that if you go all the way, even full throttle and back, it knows that you just want to do a bump and that's it.
Wow.
Okay, so you can bump like that all the way forward, and it's no problem. It's going to know, give it a little bump, and that's that. So people who are nervous around the dock, and they're just going all the way, they're not going to go full throttle.
So answer me this. I'm scared of that still. I buy this, I use this, and then I get confident with this, and I go, now I want to go into these marines with 5-knot cross current because I got it, and I just want a little bit more. And now I go, I want the Is that called the twist?
The twist.
I want the twist.
Yep.
Do I have to buy both of them? How does that
So
what happens?
if it's within 1 year, we'll give you an upgrade program. So you kind of lock in the price. There is a price difference between the twist and the twin.
But you give me a year to figure it out?
Give you a year.
I need like a month max.
Well, that's it. So it's no problem. We take that back.
Okay.
You know what I mean? We can't sell them, so we use them as like demos in the booth or something like that.
That's
So we
nice
just
of you
absorb
guys.
the cost or whatever the case may be. But, we want to get the customer the product that they want.
Right.
Right? So,
And they're happier, and then they're going to tell their friends, and you're going to sell 5 more.
And that's
I get it.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, that does happen. We've had it go the other way too. You know what I mean? Where people
Start with that.
they think they want this and then they go back down to that.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's handy. It's lightweight. I mean, I like it. I like it. Well, you have anything new, secret coming out, or anything that?
So it's not really a secret. The word's kind of out. We won the Innovation Award last year at this Miami Boat Show for our dynamic positioning.
I heard about that.
So that's it was a cool thing. Dynamic positioning is not a new thing, right? So I mean, Volvo's had it, Mercury's
So let me
had
explain to the guy who's still dreaming about buying the Marlowe, right? We're on a pontoon boat in Lake wherever, and dynamic positioning means you're on an East Coast run to get lobster, and you show up at this bridge, and it's windy, and there's current ripping everywhere, and there's boats all over the place, and you spent 7 minutes jockeying the thing to hold it in place, and you realize you're there for 30 more minutes.
Yeah.
Well, you can keep jockeying for 30 more minutes, or some people have come out with tech where you could hit a button and GPS in the boat's equipment will keep you in this general vicinity. I recall a while back, it used to be a larger vicinity, and with technology that's been smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, meaning instead of maybe a 30 or 20 or 10 foot radius, maybe it's now a 10 or 5 or 2 foot radius. So the value for that is when I want to hit the park button, because I can't proceed or whatever, okay? Don't go swimming when you hit the park button because the boat doesn't know you're in the water, all right?
Yeah.
But keep everybody aboard.
Be safe.
Hit the park button if you want to. And how does yours work?
So we offer that DPS. So we're giving any conventional shaft boat or outboard boat, that doesn't already have articulating motors or, things like that. We're able to give those boats dynamic positioning. So like
a
Marlowe's,
hold feature in the water, right?
the hold feature in the water.
Sometimes I have to say this, okay?
Right.
It's not like Walmart. When you pull up with your F-250 and put it in park, it doesn't stay in your slip, okay? Right? It will drift away. That's boating. So you have a parking spot button.
We have a parking. It's dynamic positioning.
Love it, okay?
So there's 2 different options, right? So we have our ocean mode and we have our precision mode. Okay. So ocean mode uses only the engines to keep the boat's position.
Okay.
Okay. So what happens is
that's usually what I'm doing as a captain.
Right. So that's a lot.
I'm putting my stern to the wind, letting the bow flop as a flag, and hanging on. Okay.
Well, there you go. Yeah, you're beating me to it. So
that's what I do. So you're telling me that does that too?
So this will do it. So this will eventually
with software.
With software. So we have an accelerometer in our antenna in our receiver. It senses where the wind or current is coming from.
That's the captain's job.
Well, this does it automatically now, right? So it's all ball bearings these days.
That's cool, man.
Chevy Chase. But cool. So it'll sense. So if you have the wind on your bow, right, what'll end up happening is it'll sense that the bow's falling because of the wind or whatever, and it'll turn and point the stern into the wind.
Okay.
And it'll just keep that stern into the wind and hold your position right there.
Right.
And it'll stay there as long as you want.
Because when I'm waiting for the bridge for 30 minutes, I don't care what direction I'm facing, right? I put the stern into the wind because it's easier to use the motors versus the thrusters, because we talked about that already. The thrusters I can't drive sideways to Mexico with my thrusters, right? That's not what they're for.
So even better now, if you have at least a proportional bow thruster with twin engines, right? Or if you're a single engine, a bow and a stern. So if you had a twin engine like this with just at least a proportional bow thruster, now you can use our precision mode, which is heading hold and position hold.
Proportional bow thruster meaning you have an on-off like a light switch version, or you have one like a dimmer where it can come in with a little bit of power and scale up to more power. So we need the scale up to more power version
to do our precision mode.
Why would I want that?
Because it holds your heading and your precision.
So if I want to look at the bridge and I paid for the upgraded proportional dimmer version bow thruster, I can stay looking at the bridge?
You can stay looking at the bridge, but in tighter quarters, right?
That's
so
important.
You're in the marina or whatever and you're getting your lines ready. You need to hold your heading because it will turn. It senses, where the wind is coming from.
That's the 4th of July upgrade. That's always when there's 2 million boats around me.
Well, the
don't
other
want
thing,
to be spinning around.
so, if you're docking on let's just say a dock it's not a floating dock, it's a pier, right? And you need to put lines on your pilings and stuff like that, right?
So that close quarters, you're meaning around physical?
100%. Oh,
Wow.
Absolutely.
I haven't tested that yet, guys.
So
I've tested it with like space
boat.
around me.
You gotta experience it. It's on a demo boat. We have a video of me doing a video like literally in the slip with all the wind and current that springs through here, and we are staying between the two pilings. It moves a little bit, but it's moving like in between two pilings, so it's a few feet. You know what I mean?
Wow.
We don't guarantee it to that,
I
but
can't
it
even
stays
imagine.
like that, right?
That would make my job so much easier. I mean, I can think of a story where I've run boats, a lot of Marlows, and my kids grew up boating with me, so they would be at some point in time my mate. And I got so confident with a wireless remote that they didn't really need to do anything but maybe throw that first line out to somebody, right? And then I remember I ran a boat that had a fixed joystick style system. And it was a little bit more challenging because I couldn't go out and assist. I couldn't go out and help my son. If I had a way to hold that boat in place, that would have been the game changer. So much easier. I mean, I don't promote single person boating, right? But
No.
I could with that.
Well, to be honest, we wouldn't promote single person. We'll promote single hand boating. You should always have somebody else maybe on board to help.
If you're
or whatever.
safe,
but
trip and bump your head, whatever.
This happens a lot, and so we added an additional like safety feature into our dynamic positioning. Most dynamic positioning systems, when you activate that and then you make a movement, it shuts off the dynamic positioning. Okay. Volvo has something that's called assisted
kind of like
docking.
cruise control in a car. You hit the brake, it turns itself off.
Great. Right. Yep. I mean, there's, right. So that's a perfect example, right? So what we did with our dynamic positioning is that you can activate dynamic positioning simply by pressing the function button.
Okay.
All right. So now imagine you're backing into a slip. You can still now make maneuvers in DPS. So you can make a maneuver to back the boat up, back the boat up, back the boat up. You let go. It now reestablishes that new center.
Oh, okay.
So you could let go.
So it's like a cruise control setting, kind of like I want to be here, but no, I don't really want to be here. So
I want to be over here now.
Right.
Okay. So, you're docking, you're trying to get the lines on, right? You're backing down, you let go. The boat's going to stop right there. And you're going to put the lines on. Okay,
is there another light, or how do I know that I'm in that mode?
It just allows you to do it in our DPS mode.
Okay.
So if you don't touch anything, it's going to stay in that spot.
Okay.
If you move, it's going to reestablish when you get to that next little
How
spot.
long can it stay in that spot for?
Man, definitely. You know what I mean?
Up to the limit of
the thrusters,
likely.
If you're on precision mode, for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, we do get feedback from certain thruster manufacturers. They allow us into our protocol and stuff, and we work together so that, the remote will start to alarm if your thrusters are getting hot.
Oh, they have temp settings on
There's all temp settings and all proportional thrusters. They usually, and all these thrusters as well on off. There's a thermal shut off if they get too hot, right? We can't control that.
But you can talk to it.
But we can talk to it. That's right.
That's
so it
awesome.
lets you know. So what happens is if the thrusters were to overheat, the Dockmate system will not let you go into precision mode anymore. It'll only let you go into ocean mode.
Okay.
So just using the engines, and then you could stay there as long as you wanted, right? So there is that communication and handshake behind the scenes that gets way above my head and how the things communicate. You know what I mean?
Right.
So what we know is we push the button and it works.
Well, I'm impressed. I'm impressed. What else do you want to tell us today?
Well, there's always new and exciting stuff coming. So, we're just, we're really fortunate to be out here. We've done, we're getting a lot of people that are just buying the Dockmate DPS in addition to the Dockmate. A lot of people are upgrading. And that's the other thing is it's like we can upgrade customers that have bought the Dockmate system. There's an upgrade program for those guys. It's on our website to upgrade to the Dockmate, the DPS capable units. So we're able to do that. We've done a ton of those in the last year. So it's just fun. I mean, we're all about making the boarding experience better for our customers. And that's really what it's about. So, we'll be continually innovating and having fun stuff coming out and we love being on Marlowe's and having the customers use the boats and, use the boat more. That's what they want.
Well, thanks for supporting us at the Rendezvous. I appreciate what you guys do there.
Yeah.
You really provide a lot of information and education to the clients, and that's valuable to me. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
What I will say, guys, is I learned a bunch today. I hope you learned something. I am impressed with this. We are on a 53 Marlowe. She's brand new. She does not have the DPS. Okay.
No.
We're going to go cruise this boat for hundreds of miles with the new owners. We're going to do another video. We're going to have the owners on and let's see if they like the equipment that they ordered, if they're going to maybe switch to something different or upgrade, right? Why not to do a little case study here of
Absolutely
how we like it, if we want more or if we want to change the control. So my name again is Eric Gervais, Everything Yachting. Thanks for your time today. Marc Curreri, Dockmate.
Thank you.
This has been great. I've learned a bunch. I hope you have too. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you.
All right.
Thanks for joining us at Everything Yachting. I hope you've enjoyed diving into the yachting world today. If you've enjoyed or learned something, please subscribe to my channel and stay tuned for more. Until next time, my friends, healthy families, happy memories, and may fair winds and smooth seas guide your future yachting adventures.